Imagine a city falling asleep, a quiet winter night. Now imagine that same city waking up to a living nightmare. This is the story of Bhopal, India. On December 2, 1984, a night that etched itself into history as the world's deadliest industrial disaster. In the heart of this bustling city, a pesticide plant owned by Union Carbide India Limited became the source of a toxic cloud that would change hundreds of thousands of lives forever. What happened in Bhopal wasn't just an accident. It was a tragedy waiting to happen. The story begins in 1969 when the American multinational Union Carbide Corporation set up a plant to produce pesticides. The key ingredient was a chemical called methyl isocyanate, or mic. It's incredibly toxic, and its most dangerous quality is that it reacts violently with water. Despite this, the factory was built right next to densely populated low-income neighborhoods. Think about that for a second, a chemical time bomb, ticking away next to thousands of families. By the early 1980s, the plant was losing money, and when profits dip, what's the first thing to go? Safety. Union Carbide began a series of drastic cost-cutting measures. They slashed the number of safety staff. They shut down the refrigeration unit that was meant to keep the mic stable and cool. Maintenance was neglected, and safety alarms were known to be unreliable. Workers, many of whom were undertrained, voiced their concerns, but they were largely ignored. The stage was set for an unimaginable catastrophe. Late on the night of December 2, 1984, the worst-case scenario became a reality. A significant amount of water seeped into a storage tank, Tank 610, which held over 40 tons of mic. The exact cause is still debated, but it was likely due to faulty valves and a complete breakdown in maintenance procedures. The water reacted with the MIC, triggering a runaway chemical reaction. The temperature and pressure inside the tank skyrocketed. Just after midnight, the emergency safety valve, which was supposed to contain such a release, burst under the immense pressure. A massive, dense cloud of about 40 tons of poisonous gas was unleashed into the cold night air. Being heavier than air, the toxic fog hugged the ground and silently drifted over the sleeping city. People woke up gasping, their eyes burning as if on fire, their lungs searing with every breath. They started coughing violently, vomiting uncontrollably. Panic erupted. Families grabbed their children and ran into the darkness, but there was nowhere to run. The gas was everywhere. Many collapsed and died right there in the streets. In the morning light, Bhopal looked like a war zone. The streets were littered with the bodies of men, women, children, and animals. It was a silent, horrifying massacre. The immediate aftermath was pure chaos. Hospitals were completely overwhelmed. Doctors had no idea what chemical they were dealing with or how to treat the thousands of people flooding their emergency rooms. The official death toll in the first few days was around 3,000, but activists and independent researchers say the real number is much higher, likely over 15,000 in the weeks that followed. And for those who survived the initial exposure, their nightmare was just beginning. Over 500,000 people were exposed to the gas. They were left with chronic health problems, permanent lung damage, blindness, cancers, and severe neurological issues. So, how did Union Carbide respond? They downplayed the severity of the leak. The company's chairman, Warren Anderson, flew to India, was briefly arrested, and then, inexplicably, was released on bail. He immediately fled the country and never returned to face trial for his company's role in the disaster. It was a stunning display of corporate evasion. The horror didn't end when the gas dissipated. The toxic chemicals settled into the soil and seeped into the groundwater, poisoning the environment for generations. People living near the abandoned factory site are still drinking contaminated water today. Children born to survivors have shown higher rates of birth defects and developmental problems. The disaster created a legacy of suffering that continues to this day. The legal battle that followed was long and frustrating for the victims. In 1989, the Indian government, acting on behalf of the victims, agreed to an out-of-court settlement with Union Carbide for $470 million. It sounds like a lot of money, but when you divide it among over 500,000 victims, it comes out to a shockingly small amount per person, for many just a few $100s to compensate for a lifetime of pain and medical bills. Activists called it a sellout, a gross injustice that let a multinational corporation off the hook. In 2001, Dow Chemical acquired Union Carbide. You might think they would step up and take responsibility. Instead, they've consistently denied any liability for Bhopal, arguing that the 1989 settlement closed the case forever. But for the people of Bhopal, the case is far from closed. They are still fighting for proper compensation, for medical care, and most importantly, for the cleanup of their environment. The Bhopal gas tragedy sent shockwaves around the world. It forced governments and corporations to completely rethink industrial safety. In India, it led to the creation of the Environment Protection Act of 1986. Globally, it sparked a movement demanding stricter regulations and greater corporate accountability, especially for companies operating in developing nations. It raised a critical question: what is the price of progress? The story of Bhopal is more than just a historical event. It's a powerful, haunting lesson about corporate greed, negligence, and the devastating human cost when safety is sacrificed for profit. It's a stark reminder of the vulnerability of poor communities and the failures of governments to protect their own citizens. 4 decades later, the survivors of Bhopal are still fighting for justice. Their struggle ensures that the world never forgets what happened on that terrible night. We remember Bhopal not just to honor the victims, but to remain vigilant, to demand accountability, and to make sure that a catastrophe of this scale never, ever happens again. Thank you for watching. If you found this story important, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more content that matters. Let's keep the memory of Bhopal alive and continue the fight for a safer world.